set? You guys? Yes. Wake them up. All set? You good?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Ladies, Kim? Good. Okay, please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. To start our meeting, the first thing that we need to do on our agenda is to swear in our new board member, Jolene Bliss. So our clerk is going to do that right now. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Mr. McDonald, we have two new persons that just came in. Joe, do you need to? No? Okay. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you for coming tonight, everyone. In our public forum, we're going to start off. We have a couple persons down the list. Fran Britton, would you like to speak first, please?
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. Our world has become so hateful, and unfortunately, it has wormed its way into our school and community. We as parents, teachers, administrators, board members must infuse our school with compassion, understanding, and compromise. There is no place for anything less. It's our job to lead our children with these characteristics and weed out the hatred. I challenge our present and our newly elected board members to make good decisions for our children and the community without hate, bias, or personal agendas. If hate, bias, or personal agendas are part of our current and or newly elected board members, you are in it for the wrong reasons. And I ask you to either walk away from the position or change the way you're coming across. Your agendas need to be for the children. It needs to be for the district. It should not be for any personal reasons, whether it be hatred or dislike of an individual. I've heard individuals' comments how Dr. Corey must go. Dr. Corey has fought hatred from some of the community members and never, in my opinion, given a real chance to prove or disprove his ability to lead this district. He has been at a disadvantage from the get-go. It's my experience in management. You can have the best leader out there. Doesn't matter how good he or she is. Because those that support that individual, if they're not up to the task, that individual's not going to succeed. It's just a fact. It's the way it's going to work. That's the way society works. We need to give Dr. Corey the opportunity to bring these children in to grow, to be good, compassionate citizens, okay? And it's our job as parents, teachers, administrators, board members, to help that all succeed. You know, I ask tonight that we put this hatred away and work together for the sake of the children. Be careful for what you ask for. You could get much worse. Dr. Corey came in after a long-term superintendent. You knew, our district knew, how that superintendent worked. His ideas, his philosophies. Does anybody really know Dr. Corey's ideas and philosophies? Has he ever been asked or given that opportunity to show what those ideas and ideas are? I'm one person, but he has my full support to show us what he can do for this district. And I implore to the rest of the community, to our board members, our administrators, our teachers, give him that support. Give him that opportunity to succeed or to fail. Because right now, we're not giving him that support to succeed. No matter how good he is, he can't succeed without that support from us. And I ask us, everybody here, if you really care about this school district, if you really care about your children and where they go from this point, you must stand behind that man. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Elizabeth Decker. Elizabeth?
Hi guys. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware on the board of how the election was run last night. I know I've had quite a few people from the community reach out to me today with concerns that are very much in line with some of mine. So I just want to make sure that you guys can go into tonight with an idea of how things went, because I know that most of you were not there last night. So my understanding from the New York State School Board Association is that there are supposed to be 2 inspectors per box. So there are 2 people counting each box as they are emptied, or emptying them and then counting the entire box. We had 5 inspectors in total for 4 boxes that were dumped onto a table and then grouped together and counted. That is not how things should be done. Votes were all counted silently. Again, according to the School Board Association, all votes are to be counted out loud and tallied as they are counted. And they are supposed to be counted twice by 2 different individuals. That was not done. I asked partway through the count, I asked William if they were going to do an out loud count, and I was told no. And when I questioned why, I was told that this is just how it's always been done. There were, let's see. So when the results were actually read at the end, there were 3 different people, 3 different candidates that fell within 6 votes of each other, which generally would automatically go to a recount because that's such a close election. It was not automatically recounted. I should back up and say that as the ballots were being counted, they were just divvied up into piles. People were going through like each individual line, you know, the first budget and then the buses and then the library, counting their pile yeses and nos, and then if somebody finished their pile, they would take from somebody else's pile to help them finish theirs. So there was no real consistency with this is person A's pile, this is person B's pile. There was a discrepancy at one point because somebody didn't count a certain part of the ballot and they had to go back and recount everything. That was just one error that they picked up on. there really should be 2 sets of eyes on all ballots. That was not done at any point. When I asked for a recount, when I realized that there was not going to be an automatic recount, I was told that it would take too long and we would not be staying all night. Then the entire stack of ballots were handed to me as a candidate, and I was told that if I wanted to recount them, I could do it myself. So I did, in case anyone's wondering. At that point, just for the record, Brian, Corey, William, and Brad Dietz were all there when I requested and then was given all the ballots. I counted them and came up with substantially different numbers than what was actually put out as the official count. So I, again, with that discrepancy, asked again for a recount before the ballots were locked up. And it is my understanding that that was not done. However, I have reached out to Brian and Brad and have gotten no response confirming or denying that. So I don't actually know if it was done, but it is my assumption, since I have not heard and the numbers, the first round of numbers were posted, that it probably was not recounted. Votes that should have been disqualified were not. Like, it's very clear in elections that if a candidate is circled or the box is filled in instead of an X or a check, that those are disqualified votes. None of that was done. All of the votes were counted regardless of how that was filled out. And really, I feel like a candidate shouldn't have been the person doing the second recount. It really should have been the 6 people that are actually board approved to do recounts that should have done that. And I guess I'm saying all this not because I lost, which, for the record, on my final count, it was a one vote discrepancy, which is why I requested the recount and was so adamant about it. I feel like integrity is important. Integrity is important from the top down, and I did not see any reason to not do a recount. Jolene was also there, and it was her and I that were that 1 point discrepancy, and she was just as behind doing a recount as I was, because we both just wanted to make sure going into it that we had accurate numbers. I really think that we need to take a look at why things happened the way they did, why election rules weren't followed, why a recount was denied when I really feel like it was a very reasonable request and should have been done from the beginning. It's worrisome to me as a parent that if our election does not have integrity, and that's something that, like, you're being asked to do with a concern from a candidate, what are we not seeing behind the scenes that is also not done with integrity? So I just wanted to make sure that everyone had the facts of what happened last night. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, moving on to the regular meeting. Under B, do I hear a motion?
One person who had to speak.
This one? Oh, I did. I am sorry. Tom, I missed your circle on here. Okay. My failure. Thank you. Okay.
I've been forgotten before. First of all, I think Fran stole my notes. Dr. Corey, I think you're doing a great job. Thanks. That's just me. My wife's driven the school bus here for 40 years. I've put 5 children through this school. I've seen a lot of nonsense with the past administration, and it's no secret that I do not like that man. And I think we should all understand what I went through. He's doing a good job. And 2 of the candidates were on their phone more than they were listening to everybody else. That made me angry. Good job.
Thank you, Tom. All right. I am going to back check myself one more time. All right, thank you. We had the 3 speakers. Excuse me. All right, now we're down to the regular meeting minutes for the May 4th, 2022. Do I hear a motion and a second for that? Mr. Nodine, motion. Mr. Curtis, second. Any discussion on the minutes for May 4th?
Yeah, I had messaged you before that they're inaccurate, but I see in the revised packet, they're still not accurate.
And for the May 4th, help me
Yep.
then. Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm referring to the section on page 2 that states that there was in order to have a quorum, a motion was made by Mrs. Allen and a second by Mr. Curtis to table the minutes of the special meeting to May 18th. We had a quorum, and you called for a motion to approve, which is what they were for, and then we voted. So they're not accurate.
Okay. I think I was going to speak about that. It ties into the next thing under the special meeting. So, any more discussion about the May 4th?
I just think it was important to bring it up again because we were live streamed, so it's on video how the motion that was made.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second on the table to accept the minutes for May 4th. All right, all in favor? All right, oppose? Abstain?
I abstain.
You abstain. Okay. Did you get that, Bill? 3, 2 and 2, yes. Yep, so it's not a majority for the acceptance of those minutes. Okay. For the special meeting, I know that we talked about on the special meeting, and I did make an error for the special meeting that we had with regard to the BOCES budget, that after we had a motion and a second, and we had voted on that, that I tabled it at that point, and that was wrong on my part to table it after the vote. You can table it before the vote, but after a vote, it can't be tabled. Now, that was a 3-0-3, 3-4-0 oppose and 3 abstain. That vote is only a vote on the minutes as they are. It doesn't impact on any resolutions. All resolutions go on as they were voted on, and that was regarding the BOCES budget, which had a 4-0 vote. Okay, so my error on doing that, taking that, so that's something that I certainly have learned, that after the vote, you don't table. Now, we could have a revote on that, so I'm going to ask now if we want to have a revote, because you can open it up with a new motion to have a revote on those special meeting minutes. So does anybody want to make a motion?
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
What would be the purpose of revoting on it?
Well, only if you wanted to get it, if we wanted to we could choose to have a new vote, because a 3-0-3 does not reflect a positive vote for those meeting minutes. But if we felt that those meeting minutes reflected a resolution that had gotten 4-0 as a resolution, we could decide whether we want to also support the minutes.
I mean, what is the repercussion of not passing the minutes?
None. It doesn't affect BOCES in any way. It has no bearing on the resolution.
And I say we keep it the way it was voted upon last meeting.
I think, however, what Brad's saying is now that we have a clearer understanding of the protocol and that whether or not abstention should have even happened during that vote,
Yeah.
that makes the difference in how the vote would end.
Well, the abstention happened with the people that weren't at the meeting.
Yeah, and that's
We
the
have a
next
clearer
part.
understanding of that now, though.
Yeah, but that's the next part of this whole thing.
Can I jump in 1 second?
Absolutely.
I think to answer Kate's question very simply is that all that it does is if you vote on it, it makes it part of your public record. That's it. So votes do not, or minutes do not actually need to be voted on. Some schools do, some schools don't. We have a process where we do. So if you want to make it part of a public record, then that's what you're actually acting on.
So in review of this, after the concern came up, I did look into this about abstentions, and something that also became knowledge to me from New York State School Boards, their legal direction was, it's not appropriate to abstain only because you weren't at a meeting. Commissioners' guidelines are that if you're not at a meeting, it's your responsibility as a board member to learn what did take place, get familiar with the notes, get familiar with the minutes that were there, and then the expectation is a yes or no vote. Abstention, they said, is really only utilized if it's personally connected to you. And we've done that before. If it's a family member, spouse, somebody like that, it's appropriate to abstain from that. But outside of that, the legal counsel said we should not be using abstentions because we're absent from a meeting. So I think that's been a practice that we've had in the past, and maybe a misinterpretation of how we should be voting on that. So I think that if going ahead, if that can be helpful for all of us to understand, you know, absence shouldn't turn into an abstention, but rather an opportunity to get familiar before the vote. Yes?
I have a question for you then, Brad. How, for this particular example, for the April 27th, I was not there. How would I make myself familiar with what happened when my only documentation is the notes, the meeting notes? I guess I'm confused.
Yeah, other than making a call, you can make a call to the superintendent, you can make a call to me to say, okay, you know, what took place, what transpired. I mean, you've been at those for over the years, those
The only reason I'm asking is if I didn't feel like that was appropriate, or I didn't have time, or I didn't feel comfortable, what you're saying is that you've been advised that it would be better to vote no than to abstain.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, because, but the understanding is you would seek ways to educate yourself prior to when coming in, you know. Now, on that particular one, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the day before a regular meeting, because we had a regular meeting on the 28th. So it happened the day before, and, you know, you certainly know what those BOCES votes are about that we have to do, so. Okay, thank you. So that will just stand for record, as Dr. Corey says. All right, do I have a motion for the annual vote and election for May 17th, 2022? A motion for that, for acceptance. Mr. Utes made a motion. Do we have a second? Oh, yes. Okay. Mrs. Madigan seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Oppose? Abstain?
I oppose.
Yeah, you've got to make sure the clerk knows.
I oppose.
Okay?
I wanted to oppose.
I don't know, because...
I wanted to oppose as well.
Okay, let's start again. All in favor? Aye. Oppose?
Okay.
And abstain. All right, so we got a 3-3. I'm sorry, 4-3. Was it 4-3? I'm just looking around. Okay, we got a 4-3. Okay, thank you. All right. Do I have a motion? We're going into financial reports, the treasurer's report. There is none, the warrants are none, so we go right by that. Unfinished business. The board vacancy and appointment, that when the documentation and the understanding that we had originally was that Mrs. Cook's seat was to go until the end of June. Coming to understand after the fact, after it had been listed that way, was that it really ended as of the election last night, based on the outcome of the election. So that was, you know, again, part of the learning process of a unique situation that we've gone through, that it's, I don't know that we've ever had that, to my recollection, other than the loss of a person when that wasn't filled in at one time. So it's been part of a learning curve for us all. Any questions with regard to that? Yes?
I was under the understanding that we were going to need to vote on a revised appointment letter,
A revised appointment letter, yes.
but I didn't see it in here, so I didn't know if,
Nope, because if we look through the data on that, let me pull up my correct sheet.
We just changed it in here, but.
Yeah.
I'm just going off of the email that you sent.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Or I thought you were going to speak. Yeah, we're looking at the, going back to October 20th, 2021, when we had a meeting for the approval and the swearing in of Sue Cook, when she assumed that seat by appointment. And it was listed as being for the remainder of the year, and it was not for the remainder of the year. It should have been until the next board election. So do I have a motion to revise that resolution back for, again, for record, on October, for the record of the minutes of October 20, 2021, that that role should have been until the next board election, May 17th, 2022. Motion, Mr. Nodine, a second. Mr. Curtis, any discussion?
Is that the only thing that needs to be amended on there?
Yes,
Just the date? Just the date?
just the date, yeah. Rather than being for the entire school year, it was up until that point, the May 17th. All right,
Does this by the law, the way we reached out to the attorneys?
yes,
This is the way they said that we're supposed to have done it. Instead of letting it go to the end of this term, we had to do it to the end of election.
until the next election day, which then we were asking that just having the minutes properly reflect that. So,
Do you
All
have
right.
the hard copy there, Brad?
do I have it here?
Do you think that we should, like, at least show it to Jolene? Because I'm assuming if it's not in the packet, then how would she vote? Because she doesn't have it.
Well, it's probably not in the packet, only because we,
Well, I'm just saying because she's working off of paper, so she doesn't have
Yep.
any way to see it.
yep, so I can read it to you unless you need to see it physically.
If I could take a look at it, that would be great.
October 20th?
October 20th.
Instead of completing the year, you only go to the date of the vote, you know, and there's 5 weeks.
So you go 2 years and 1 month.
Right.
Yeah,
Your term will go 2 years and 1 month.
right. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I got it. It is yes, it's part of D1, and it's an amendment to the October 20, 2021 minutes to reflect that the appointed position for a board for Sue Cook was to run from that date until May 17th of 2022. Okay, got it? All right, and I think, what do we have, motion and a second on that? Yes. Okay? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. We've got the strategic planning presentation that's going to come to us as an update.
All right, so we want to talk a little bit about just a brief update on where we are with our strategic plan at this point in time. So when I first arrived here, the Board of Education and myself spoke about developing a strategic plan for long-term planning for our district on multiple levels. So academically, fiscally, social emotionally, several things were included into that. So strategic planning is a process, and usually you have some outside organizations help to facilitate that process. So Julia, do you want to press the little button there? So the first part of that is to really identify the needs of the district and to establish your process. The identifying the needs really started with the Board of Education, myself, sitting down and saying, these are our district goals, this is our district mission, how do we want to move forward, and what are the high priority things that we need to start to really look at. Establishing a process, if you don't mind, one more. Like I said, there are several ways you can do that. The district chose to look into some organizations to come and help us. One of the organizations, which is the organization that we chose to move forward with, is the University of Rochester, specifically the Warner Center Study Team. And we had 2 facilitators come out and work with our Board of Education, sharing what the process for strategic planning is and you know, presenting a proposal and walking us through the steps. The first one was Bob McKevney, and the other one was Lynn Ertl. Both of them are retired superintendents in our region, and they came out and they started working with us. Our stakeholder groups, after working with them and our administrative team, we identified stakeholder groups, which included parents, students, instructional staff, non-instructional staff, and administration. Yeah, that's a good point. So all of those groups, a survey was sent out to all of those groups, and that's really where a lot of the information really started.
Thank you. So this is a great process that we had with a lot of stakeholders. There was around 20 people, and 6 of us are here tonight, because I see Joni came in too. So there were 6 of us here tonight. We started with students. We had some parents on board. We had some support staff, instructional staff, and administrators. You'll notice that our students that we had, we tried to grab the high school students that had different experiences and may have had a different experience all the way through their school, here at Red Creek. You'll also notice that they're all high schoolers, so we went after the students that might be able to contribute a little bit more to the process as we were looking that together. So we had, like I said, the students, parents, teachers, instructional staff, and non-instructional staff, and administrators. And then we also had them split up. So we were in a group it was a group of a mix in each one of our groups. We were in 3 groups that were looking at all the different sources of data during this time. So we spent a lot of days together. And of course, we're focused really on our mission statement. And the mission statement is that our district is going to create a safe and supportive learning environment for all of our students in order to prepare them with the fundamental skills and knowledge to successfully and responsibly contribute to society. Very key.
And just very quickly, Mr. Taylor pointed out that we had used data in this process. So we all received very large binders that included information from multiple school districts that are in our region, and school districts that are actually out of our region. And the reason for that was to really kind of look at the unique situations that are taking place in each school district and really start to pick apart some of those key ideas that we will be talking about in a minute. And you know, there are school districts that are right in our region that are very similar to us, and then there's some that are significantly different. But they also expanded beyond that, and they looked at some of the other school districts that are outside of our region that are more similar in nature to our district. So, Mrs. Herbst.
Going off of what Dennis said about our mission statement, we divided it out into 3 main focuses, and we used data to use those 3 focus areas. And there's going to be future slides on those focuses. But the first one was culture and communication, and then educational excellence, and then school experience. So those were our primary focuses. In culture and communication was to create a positive culture and environment educational excellence to establish a challenging and impactful educational experience that prepares all learners for success in an ever-changing world, and school experience to provide responsive and appropriate opportunities, resources, and systems that foster the development of well-rounded students within our school community. And we'll get into those right now.
Culture and communication. So we want to create a positive culture and environment. Diversity, equity, and inclusivity is part of it. External communication, so communication between school, parents, and then leadership, administrative roles and responsibilities, making sure that there's respect, professionalism amongst all staff and faculty. Social emotional learning, staff recruitment and retention, that's huge. And then student wellness, right from the top down, making sure that they feel safe and they're able to grow in their environment.
Our second target area was educational excellence. Obviously, that's a huge component of a school and why we're here. So there are a lot of subtopics within educational excellence. Our overall goal is that we want to be giving children an education for the full spectrum of students, from our highest achievers to our most struggling students. Our goal is obviously that we want all the children to grow into positive members of our community and be able to go out into the world and be successful. So in that area, we obviously have a lot of ways we build that, from academic offerings for enrichment and academic offerings for preparing students for the future. What are some pathways for kids to be successful contributing members of society after high school, that we need to be building that up in our school district right now. We need to be assessing, obviously, and having a system for assessment to see like who is achieving and what do we need to do to help them continue to develop. In order to provide educational excellence, we need a curriculum and a process for revising and adding to our curriculum. We need to have a professional development system that is consistent and that meets the needs of the students and the staff that we have. We need to, okay, this is where it gets a little tricky because we were working at 3 table groups and we had those 3 main areas of focus. And so we were seeing some overlap between student experience and educational excellence. And so this kind of feels like a little of this might be repetitive. But we want to be offering opportunities to students for extracurriculars. We want to be empowering students so that they feel like they are heard and valued. We need to look at our special education program as far as our classification rate goes and the continuum of services we're offering both in-house and that we're able to offer in other settings as well as needed, all in the name of educational excellence. And finally, I'm sorry, not finally, there's more after this. We need to look at alternative programs as needed for students with special needs. And then obviously sometimes you have that big target area and then you drill down to the next level and sometimes you even need to go deeper. So in the area of student resources and support services, we need to make sure that we're identifying and implementing programming and resources for all kids. Between student supports, communicating, offering the personnel necessary and offering program options to meet the needs of students so that we are providing educational excellence. So I feel like I had to do a lot of talking, but this was, you know, obviously in a school district, a huge umbrella category.
So our next piece is just the next steps on where we are. So we have our strategic plan, and I think all the board members have received a copy of that, and I will certainly shoot out another one to you. It will be revised, and I know, Jolene, I'll make sure you get a copy of that as well. That is the in-house, or kind of the external plan, the plan that we put together that, you know, our committee works on, and we really have the bigger picture, the broader picture. From that, and please remember, all of those things that were developed in that room using information from our community, using information from our stakeholder groups, and really developing the key concepts of things that we need to work on and the process on how to work on that. Our next step will be to develop a management plan. So what will happen is Bob McKevney and Lynn Ertl will come back in, they'll work with the administrative team. They'll work with myself first, and then they'll start to work with myself and Cindy Hay, and then they'll start to work with the administrative team more on an individual basis to develop out the actual management piece. So the management piece are the key components that really indicate who's responsible for each task. It doesn't mean that, you know, if it's something that's going on in Kyler Elementary School, Mr. Taylor may be the person responsible for that. He may not actually be doing the work. Haley may be doing some of the work on that. But it identifies the person who's responsible and then the key components or the action steps that need to take place for those tasks. From there, we'll have an unpacking retreat where our administrative team will work in planning with the administrators and pushing some of that out. And our goal implementation at this point is for July 1, 2022. So there will be a little bit of overlap in those two things there, the management plan and rolling it out. And I know that seems a bit odd, but as we went through this strategic plan, there were several things that through the survey groups or even through conversations that came up that said, hey, we need to do this. And then other people in the room would say, we are doing that. And maybe it ended up being a piece of communication more than the fact that we weren't doing it. So, there's a lot that came out of it that needs to be a better piece of communication out to the stakeholders in our community on things that we're already doing and things that we're doing well as some other things that you know, we identified as we really need to ramp those things up. So before we move on to questions, I just want to say we do have a few people here this evening. Mr. Taylor, elementary principal, he was definitely very involved in this. Mrs. Herbst, director of special education, she was definitely very involved. Haley Bybee, she's an elementary teacher in Kyler. Tara Bymaster, a parent of several kids in our district. And Joni Taubman, who is a support staff, and all of them were a very, very important piece of this process. We had several parents, as Mr. Taylor mentioned, we had several students, and it was really impressive to see the ideas and the thoughts that the students had, although they're hesitant to speak up, and as you can imagine, with a bunch of educators and a bunch of adults, they really did come through and provide a really good background or foundation for us to work off of. So at this point, does anybody on the committee have anything that they would like to add at this point? All right, do we have questions from board members?
Yeah, anybody have any questions you want to relay or throw off? I think I appreciate the update because this is a process that's, you know, got started and had a bit of a delay because of the pandemic, you know, because of what happened for everybody. So it's nice to see this underway with all of you doing your part to this and making this happen. So thank you.
And thank you to those people who came out and presented for us this evening. I appreciate it.
You got a question?
No, I want to go back.
Go.
Next one would go forward.
Oh, okay. All right. Any questions, anyone?
I do have a question. You guys talked about, I'm trying to go back to my notes. assessment and developing systems for assessment, and that this is looking to be implemented 7/1/22. Is that when you're looking to start implementing those systems for assessing? Because I know that that's a huge piece with our students right now, is really assessing what they are lacking in terms of where they should be. So that 7/1/22 implementation, is that actually starting the work that you guys are mentioning here, or is that just starting the process of implementing the
Yeah,
process?
so there's actually, it's a 5-year plan, and there's a rollout process, what happens in year 1, what happens in year 2, what happens in year 3. And of course, some of those are flexible, some of them you might try to get implemented in year 1, might not happen until year 2. The assessment specifically, part of it was identifying a lot of the assessments that we already have in place and figuring out how to better utilize them for collecting data and making decisions for our students. Right? Does that sound fair, Mr. Taylor? Because I know a lot of the conversation was in elementary specifically for literacy. So, so yes, to answer part of your question, a lot of it will happen in year 1. It will also be continuous. So there may be things where they say, okay, these are the assessments we're currently using. We still need more, or we need to take this one out and move towards something different because it's not assessing what our true needs are. So yes to both of those scenarios that you're saying. It will be something that develops along the road, but there will be some initial things that are implemented in year 1 as well. Also, like I said with the other thing, there are things that we've put in place and we've started to utilize, but we may not be utilizing them to meet the needs of what this group identified. So taking that data and putting it together to make informed decisions on a kid's particular program, where maybe before we were using for slightly different version of that.
So the 5-year timeline, is that something that's available so that the community is aware of, like, that timeline? Is it on our website, or?
Yeah, so right now that's in our strategic plan that you'll be receiving. The board has received it. It hasn't been rolled out to everyone else yet. This is just to get us up to that point. There's still some revisions that need to take place on that.
Okay, and then it'll be available to the community so that they can.
Yep, that'll be posted on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have anything they want to add? Ellie?
That the timeline was part of what we worked on in our group. So at my table group, we were working on educational excellence, and we had to, as part of the process, work collaboratively to decide what is the most immediate need and what can hold off. And so I don't remember which your assessment is, but it's probably toward the front of the pack, because obviously we need the information before we know what to do to help kids next. So,
Perfect,
good
thank
question.
you.
Want to add to that? No.
Mr. Taylor, did you have something? I thought you wanted to speak at one point.
I have a copy of the plan, I can put a hard copy.
Thank you.
Anybody else while he's taking a look and plan, or any comments? Excuse me. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Okay. Thank you all for your presentation, your update to bring us to speed with this process that's going to be developing along the way. Nice. Thank you. We have a storm. We have a website update with Chris Casavecchia. Oh no, Mr. First, before we go to you, Chris, Mr. Curtis.
So I have a go back, unfortunately, for D1, the revised, attachment A revised.
Yep.
Is this what was presented to the public for them to vote on, or is this our copy? Because I'm looking at it and nothing against it. I'm looking at the bottom, it says Board of Education membership election, vote for any 3. The election of 3 board members, 1 2-year term that was vacated by Kyle and will begin on May 18th, 2022. Sue was appointed in October 20th of 22.
Wow.
and her term will expire on May 17th of 22.
Yeah, it's an
Mr.
error.
Meadows' term will begin on July 1st, 2022, with the end date of May 30th of 2024. So I'm just wondering if this was what people voted, if this was on the ballot for voting.
With the specific dates, I'm not sure.
With the ballot sheet that people signed,
We should review it.
we need to review that.
Actually back at D3 or D1.
We're on
D1.
D1 attachment A.
Attachment A revised. So it'd be page 19 of 56. So
No.
we just need to clarify those dates as I'm looking at this.
Yeah, I'm looking at that as well, and
Yeah.
there's incorrect dates on there.
So it just, was this put on the ballot this way, or was it put on the ballot the correct way?
This is not,
I don't have a ballot.
yeah, I don't have the ballot in front of me. These are the propositions and
The
what,
other two terms are okay because they're accurate. That one term is not accurate.
the one term, and I just pulled up to that, so put me on the right spot with you.
Page 19.
Yep, I'm on that page, yep.
Yellow page.
Okay, go ahead. Read again.
So it says that Sue was appointed in October 20th of 22, which is this year, and her term will expire on May 17th of 22, which it did. But Kyle's term began on July 1st of 22, which it should have been July 21st. Or July 21.
21.
July.
And Sue was appointed in October of 21. So
2022 dates for
the
Sue and
22 dates, I just need to see if that was put on the ballot.
Well, and we didn't actually vote on this just now, correct? The only thing that we voted on was the revision.
But it's in that revision though.
No, so here's what was on the ballot. It says 2 vacant seats beginning on July 1st, 2022 for a 3-year term, and 1 vacant seat beginning May 18th, 2022 for a 2-year term. That's what actually is
It's not
reflected
listed
on.
the same way on the ballot.
But I didn't
But
know.
he's reading, you're reading a ballot right now, right?
So those dates of,
They're accurate on the ballot, but they're wrong.
yeah,
in our-
so
in our-
they don't have the terms of Mr. Medaw on the actual ballot there, the dates that he was in there.
Okay.
Can you
Yeah.
read that one more time so
Yep.
we can catch it?
So what is on the ballot states 2 vacant seats beginning July 1st, 2022 for a 3-year term, and 1 vacant seat beginning May 18th, 2022 for a 2-year term. So it doesn't include what, the confusion becomes where Kyle started and ended and where Susan started and ended.
Just so I'm clear though, the point, what you're pulling up here. What you pulled up, you just referred to on page 19. We didn't actually vote on that, correct?
No,
I think what we voted on was actually just the letter,
communication,
well,
yeah.
when we appointed, or, yeah, when we swore Sue in and appointed her. I think that this particular item was actually in the meeting before
Correct.
and needed to be corrected. So did we vote on it in the meeting before?
It just needs to be corrected in this revised attachment.
Well, and I would say that we would need to vote on it, right? If we voted on it once incorrectly.
If that's the way it was, but it's highlighted like it was corrected.
Right. This looks like a correction.
It's a correction with errors, basically.
So we could, this particular item could come, we could either amend it now with update and agree on that, on what the amendments are of dates, because that's what you're looking at, right, Larry?
Yeah,
The-
it needs
the
to
dates.
say October 20th, 21. Or
Yes.
it's gotta say his term began in July 1st, 2020.
Yeah. Yep. So would we want to just pound out, if you will, a motion that would have to read, if I'm reading the same thing on page 19, that it's a one 2-year term that was vacated by Kyle Meadow and will begin on May 18th, today. And Susan Cook was appointed, it should read October 20th, 2021. And her term expires on May 17th, 2022. It's that sentence that you're looking at.
Also, the next
Go
one
to the next.
says
All right.
Meadow.
Then Mr. Meadows' term started July 1st, 2021.
Correct.
And ended, and an end date of that was June 30th, 2024. All right, the 2 year and two. All right, so now, Mr. Curtis, up to that point, those are the points of correction. Beyond there, it's correct. So, with the clerk seeing this, is that what we want to change? Just those dates of what I just read off?
I don't mind changing as long as it wasn't on the ballot this way.
And
Obviously wasn't.
yeah, was not. Okay, so do I have a motion to amend that?
Before you say that,
Yeah.
I just looked it up, we actually didn't even vote on it, it was just a review, and I think Bill just read it.
So you don't need, correct, he read that publicly?
There's no vote, it was during the budget hearing, and we didn't vote on anything.
Right.
No,
I just want it revised in
No,
this
I think
packet.
you're totally right, I'm just saying it doesn't require a vote.
revised so just revising the notes, or revising the.
You can revise it in the packet. Basically, what
packet.
happened was, at the time that Bill read that, we still didn't understand that there was that change of date that Jolene is now filling in,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So he read what should have been, or what we believe should have been, and then the next meeting is when
We revised
we
the
had the,
first time.
right, we had
And
the
now it's
revision.
revised again.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
And change those 2 dates.
We're gonna
Yep.
change those 2 dates to October 20th, 2021. And Mr. Meadows,
July 1.
July 1, 2021.
Yep.
So,
We'll have it revised.
revised.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Yeah. Excuse me. Okay. Are we set to go on with the website? Website update, Chris Casabecchia, did I say that correctly? Close.
Hello?
There you go.
All right, there we go.
There you go.
So for those who haven't met me yet, I'm Chris Kazavecka. I'm the communication specialist through Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES. When I started here back in February, one of the first things that kind of caught my eye was our current website. This is, as you're seeing right now on the screen, this is our current website. Went to Dr. Corey's office and I expressed my concerns. It just pretty much just lacked engagement. And so I went about it, we talked about it, we felt that we needed to focus on sort of telling our story with our website. So over the past couple months, we have put together this. This will be our new Red Creek Central School District website. So again, we want to make sure that when we're using this, it's more than just instructional learning. It's about the opportunities that we have to offer and the relationships that are built along the way. We also want to make sure that there is ease of navigation. So we have a lot of buttons that people can use for all that, even our community center, our news events in Parent Square, all right on our homepage. So anything that's happening now, parents could just scroll down and see that's all going on there. And then the same with our social media sites, where we have been more active over the past couple months in being engaging on our social media. And they could all see that just from our district webpage, our homepage. The next is ease of navigation. So we wanted to make sure that it was very easy and clear for our families and community to access and navigate our website, as well as students. So one big thing that I wanted to make sure that we focused on is building our handbooks and making sure that it's available to our students. So something that we also put along here is all of our courses that we have offer in the high school. So if, say, a student's putting together their schedule and they want to figure out what home ec classes they could take, well, there you go. So again, it's just ease and accessibility. We also wanted to make sure that there was quick links available for our students. We know that we have a lot to offer here, as well as with paper tutoring, school tool, as well as our tip line and webmail that can all be accessed from anywhere on the site, no matter what page that you're on. And to kind of tailor it in even more, we felt that with our moving over to a new vendor, we are actually able to have each individual school have their own website. These websites will be tailored for families with students with children in those individual schools. So if you're a parent that has a student in elementary school, they could go right to the elementary school page, and again, it's all tailored for them. You scroll down to the news, you will not see news from the high school. It's just district, elementary school. Scroll over to events. Events will only list elementary school events and district events as well. So any sort of board meetings like that. And then the happening now, we unfortunately can't tailor that because that's just all coming in directly from a feed. But even when you go to the menu, activities and clubs, I'm still building these. But under the activities and clubs, will be what each individual school has to offer extracurricular-wise. Same thing with our student handbook. If you're a student in elementary school, you don't need the middle school, high school. Well, we just list elementary school on there. And then the same goes for our high school and middle school pages. And then last but not least, as we go to our district page, just to highlight a few other things. Obviously, we still looking to, get more teachers and more staff into our district. We felt that it was important to make sure that when people go to our page that they're welcomed by our career video that was put together by staff here, as well as all of our postings, whether it's professional postings, support staff postings, or administrative postings. And again, all documentation that's needed to apply would be listed here. And then another thing right now that I know that we are currently working on when it comes to academics is our international student program. So we wanted to make sure that we had this information accessible as well. Videos to show what opportunities are available for not only students coming in, but as well as host families who may want to host international students. And again, we are currently looking at a launch date of Monday, June 27th. And yeah, it's coming along great. We got a lot of things that we're still it's more of a quality control type of thing now that we're making sure that we're not having any dead links. Documents that should be where they're supposed to be are actually there. And yeah, so we should be clear to go come that June 27th launch date.
I have one thing, Chris.
Yeah.
So the public that's watching this tonight, can you show them how to get to the board meetings past? You see what I'm saying?
Archives.
Because I just want to be able to say, hey, if you can get in there. I know the last one, very hard to
So
get
then they
through.
can remember when this goes live?
Yeah.
So this is our Board of Education tab right there, all listed on the side there. This I grabbed currently on our current website. This was basically just PDF files thrown in. I basically ripped all those PDF files and placed it so that all they have to do is scroll down our page and see what our goals are, policy manual, professional development plans, and then agendas and minutes will be listed like this. Obviously, I haven't, given the fact that we just started building this in March, but yeah, minutes will be posted like that. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
No, just so how they can go to live stream
Oh, absolutely. So,
No, I know. I just want to make sure the public. I was in this playing with it the other day.
so there could be two ways. Obviously, we have the YouTube that we post live stream. You can actually click right here. I'm going to get this fixed so that you can actually watch it just right on the website, or you could just click on the view on YouTube. And again, I think it's just because of our firewalls and stuff like that. It's blocking the feed to this computer, but you will be able to watch. from there. So, and then it also we'll have it posted on, it should be, and if it's not, I'll make sure that it's there. There should be a tab where it's currently not there. I'll make sure that there's a tab where we'll say live stream, and all they do is click that button, and it'll bring them to the live stream.
Under agendas and minutes again, wasn't it, Chris?
Isn't there right there, click here to stream live?
Right down there.
Oh, sorry, it was there. And then that'll bring us to our YouTube page where you could learn to stream live.
Yeah, just remember, this is not live for the community yet. So
Correct.
what you're showing is the maintenance show.
Demo of it.
Correct. This is still work in progress. I want to say we're about 85 to 90% done. Again, it's more of a quality control check kind of thing, and I believe the link was sent out to the board, and if not, I'll make sure it's sent out to you. That way, if you guys navigate it and you see anything that you feel should be added, we can take a look at that and see what we can go from there.
Yeah, because I was in it the other day, and that's where I found this, which was very, a lot easier to find than the last one. The last one was very hard to find past meetings, so, thank you.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
Great job.
I do have a question. So, being that this isn't the first time I'm putting my eyes on it, because tonight's my first night, I think this is perfect, like, this is great. Is there, are we looking in the future to add more to our board section where we are maybe using a system like Board Docs or something where we are getting our board information out to our public?
Yes, we could integrate something like that where we would basically just put a button that you would click and it would bring you to that page. And the best part about this is that it's kind of like real-time editing. So if it's something that we need to get up immediately, it's pretty much just a 5-minute process as long as the coding is all good to go, which, again, before, I remember when I was trying to make a change, I had actually called our current vendor's customer support, and they were like, yeah, you have to put in a work order for that. And I'm thinking to myself, this is kind of a simple change. Why would I have to put in a work order for that? Whereas our new vendor, I have complete access to pretty much the back end. So that was another concern that I brought up to Dr. Corey, is like, why would we have to put in work orders for something we could do easily? So.
Thank you.
To answer specifically the board docs, we are actually looking into board docs as well.
Wonderful. Great, thank you.
Great job, Chris. Anybody else? Any questions, comments? I think it's long overdue, and great development that you've done. It'll be a real asset for the community. Thank you. Okay, no other comments, questions? We're on to new business. Excuse me, under certified staff, we're looking at, we've got A, B, and C. Do I have a motion? I will read them off. Yes, for all three. Do I have a second? That was from Mrs. Madigan. Do I have a second? Mr. Nodine. Okay, it's under certified staff, the appointment of a substitute teacher, Ms. Catherine Lynn Abel. An appointment for a substitute teacher, Ms. Monica Linville. And then the appointment for the 21st Century Summer Athletic Camp coaches. Any discussion? All right, ready to vote? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Bingo. All right, classified staff. We've got an A and a B. Do I have a motion for either or both, or either one? Both? Okay, a motion from Mrs. Allen, a second. Okay, Mr. Utes with a second. All right, that's the appointment for a sub-teacher assistant, sub-teacher aide, and sub-school monitor, Mrs. Monica Linville, and an appointment for a substitute receptionist at the front desk clerk. This is for the community center, correct? Madison E. Gregg. Any discussion? Any thoughts? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. Mrs. Herbst has been busy with the CSE recommendations. There's a number of them there. And there are no CPSE recommendations. Any questions with those? Yes. Okay, a motion from Mrs. Madigan, second, Mr. Nodine. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right, under 4, the adoption of, we got 4, 5, and 6. So the adoption of the calendar schedules for 22-23, and there's the request for budgetary transfer, and then the adoption of school district budget. So any or all of those?
Let's do one at a time.
One at a time? Okay, for the adoption of the calendar schedules for 22-23. Got a motion? Mr. Utes, second. Mr. Curtis? Okay, any discussion?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't see the revised board. Never mind, I'm way ahead.
You're way ahead.
Disregard that.
Disregard.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I know we saw them last month, or last meeting, excuse me. So, all right, all in favor of the adoption? Aye. Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Okay, we got one abstention. Okay, request for budgetary transfers today, May 18th, 2022. It's in the packet, information with regard to that. Do I have a motion? Mr. Curtis, a second. Mrs. Allen? Okay. Any discussion? You all set? All right. All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? 7-0, okay. 6, the adoption of the school district budget for 22-23. Excuse me, do I have a motion? Mr. Nodine, a second. Mr. Curtis, a second. Thank you. All right. Any discussion with that? We went through the budget hearing. All right. We had a very successful vote on it last night. All right. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. Correspondence. I will say, because I did share, and I'm going to pass this down, we got a nice correspondence. I'll share it with you guys. You can take a look at it. That came from Helen Drake for being able to use the school facilities for some of the large number of people, the great number of people that came all over for the funeral of her husband. So they needed the parking lot and space. So you can take a look at that correspondence. All right, Dr. Corey.
Yeah, so you have the administrative reports there. And I just wanted to talk about the two other items there. So we have, we're under superintendent correspondence here, right? We have the draft 2022-23 Board of Ed meeting schedule. That is a draft form right now. Just the most important thing to understand right there is our reorganizational meeting has to be done within a certain time frame. So it's really important that we have that in front of you so that we can all start to block off times for that reorg meeting. Obviously, with new members coming on the board, there will be some potential changes, but we want to get those on the calendar as quickly as we possibly can so that we can make sure that people are planning their time effectively. And then as far as the other one, it's the certification election results. That's the certification that Mr. McDonald has, that he has to submit. And is there any questions on any of those at this point in time?
I have a question back to the
Sure.
schedule real quick. Sure. So is it okay if we approve it
Yeah.
later than tonight? Or
Yeah, there's no approval needed tonight. This is just a draft for your information. We typically can approve at any time from this time frame up until our reorg meeting. Or the unfortunate thing is, once you do that at your reorg meeting, you already have some dates that are passing. So,
Because the July 6th reorg meeting that's on this draft was already approved. It's on the last
correct.
calendar, right?
Yeah.
So we're already planning on July 6th as being the reorg meeting for this year. Okay.
Yes. So the other ones, or you could technically approve it and revise it if needed, or you could just hold off and to approve the other dates.
Okay. Thank you.
It's typically done both ways in different districts.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
That's all you have, okay. Any other questions, discussion, items? Sure, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the board retreat. I had emailed last week just saying that I would like to discuss it further based on everything that's going on right now with new members coming in and other members leaving. So I would like, while I don't want to keep going back and forth about the date, I know we've been bouncing back and forth, but I do want to consider waiting longer than June 15th at this point, or July, whatever date we landed on
June
last.
15th, it's scheduled for right now.
Yep. I would like to wait maybe until the fall at this point where we have a new complete board, and we can move forward instead of trying to do it before the reorg meeting.
Why don't we just invite the new members
Yeah.
to the retreat also?
They're invited to the retreat. They got a
Right.
letter on that,
Right.
inviting them to, depend on the outcome of the election, they've all been given that note, or that date to prepare for, and that's what we had discussed to do. So, you know, we've got a facilitator scheduled. Sure, we had two human interest concerns on a reschedule of that based on 2 deaths that occurred that had to move that as we did. So I'm trying to.
Do we know if the 3 new members are able to attend that meeting, or?
Well, since the election was just last night and only one is here right now, can you attend that meeting? I mean,
I'm not going to be able to, so.
We pushed this off many times for everything, and any way you want to do it, it doesn't matter, but
yeah.
I think it's wise to have everybody there to do this meeting. I know
That was the point, is to have everybody
we keep
there.
pushing it off and off and off, though.
Right.
We were very much considering a second retreat, that we could do at a later time as well.
Yeah, we talked about a second retreat. I mean, this is the first I've heard, Kate, that you can't make it there because we had agreed upon this before.
Well, what I said to you was I would do the best that I could, and to pick 2 dates in the same week would be best for me, but of course I'm not going to make it.
Okay.
So there was some discussion about an 8-hour day, and then that shifted down to the
4 hours.
shorter time, with the anticipation that you'll do something initially and then continue that on with either a full day or another half day or a series of events throughout the course of the time. I think that the goal was to kind of transition, if people are coming off the board, transition the people off and have a good understanding of what's currently going on, and they could be helpful to the newer people coming on. So I think that's kind of what NISBA was recommending at that point.
Exactly. In discussion with them, the quality of being able to have anyone exiting the board at the end of June, but also having the new persons be able to be part of that. And that was a recommendation that it allowed for that, and we had a lot of discussion about that as we moved through.
Can I ask what the purpose of the retreat is? Like what's going to be happening there? Like what is it that we're looking to come out of it with?
It sets the opportunity for the facilitator to help us to best understand our particular role as board members, where our boundaries are, what our functions are as board members, and then how to work collectively and cooperatively together to those goals. And that's one of the instances I even shared with you tonight was a sense of the importance as a board member to not have to abstain just merely because you're absent from a meeting, but rather to educate yourself on what's there in your absence so that you are actively involved board member. So that's just one piece of a responsibility as a board member. So,
The big piece of it, though, is really the team building aspect.
yeah.
Okay,
If
that's-
you've been experienced with that, I'm sure at
Yeah.
work or wherever.
So-
Filled out paperwork surveys about this months ago, though, and so I would only say for the people that are participating, and I would be happy to fill it out even not being there, I would say that some of my answers to my questions might have changed. It's been like 6 months since we filled it out. So
Well, we filled it out in February, if I remember, because that was our first
Really?
date.
I thought it was earlier
It
than
was
that.
January or February.
Anyway, I mean, it's been, you know, we talked about everything from cohesiveness to leadership to working through tough situations. And I personally think some of the dynamics have changed on the board since we filled it out.
Yeah, there was a lot of conversation around when we were having challenges directly related to COVID response and decisions that were made during COVID that may have shifted some of that focus a little bit, right? I don't think the NISBA in general would push back about maybe putting out another survey to kind of reflect where we are currently, kind of take the temperature and maybe because I think they were planning on reaching out to the newer people anyway
Yeah.
and getting their results, right? So,
Yeah.
so you'll have some feedback before you actually go into that process. So, it doesn't matter to me when you want to do it. I'm happy to do it either way, but I think we should.
I apologize if I don't remember that we talked about splitting it into 2 different dates. All I have is June 15th. So if we did talk about doing the 4 hours on June 15th, but then maybe another session down the road,
Right.
I would agree to that. I would be agreeable to that.
Right.
I just feel like at this point, June 15th might be a little bit premature, and we should wait till the fall. But if we're gonna split it up, then we can talk about that.
I mean, one of the thoughts that they said, particularly, we knew the potential could be, and it's proved out, 3 new board members out of 7 is a large turn over. So the importance of going in, and if we waited until the fall, we're already a number of meetings in, that doing this early on with the experience of people that have been on the board that would be leaving and what their experience has been in the share, and also what can be garnered for new persons to be able to develop. So, the concern was that we wanted to not kick it down the road. We were forced to because of 2 incidences that came up, and then because of that, I thought we went away feeling pretty certain that we were able to go with June. And the possibility, I think you actually, or somebody did, mention a subsequent 4 hours later, rather than one big 8-hour day.
I like that idea of 4 hours, like now, and then being able to follow up with another training after the newer members have a little bit under their belt. And then, we would have the full new board and visions to be able to discuss at that time.
Yeah.
It also provides them with a little bit of a deeper understanding, so it'll be the same facilitator. So the first 4 hours gives them kind of a foundation to build off of for the next training. So that's kind of why they were in favor of that model, whether you do another 4 hour or 8 hour or multiple sessions, but it gives them that background of what your board really looks like.
So just to clarify, is it 4 hours of lead training, or is it some of it's lead training and then we as a board sit together and discuss, our vision?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both.
Combination of that, yeah. I mean,
They do interactive activities. I mean, the last one we did anyway, that's how they did it. They did interactive. Yeah. it
Right,
was- it was
yeah.
neat.
It's, the facilitation and design. And, I just wrote myself a note. We can get them to get, kind of what Dr. Corey just said, send a new persons like yourself and the other 2 new persons that survey that we all did to be able to garner your mind about what you see as being an incoming new board member. So they also got that complexion coming in about you, as they've also got it of all of us, of, you know, what we think is important, what's needed, what are our concerns.
Yeah, I think at this point, though, we're asking for that survey to be sent to all of us again, though, so we can update it.
We could do, I could ask them about a complete survey to everyone.
We're gonna hold on to June
Well,
15th.
I mean, they could get it sent out. They need what a couple weeks is what they told me, that they, you know, 10 days to 2 weeks of review and put together a program. Now, they've already started developing one, the facilitator has, obviously. So if we want to get the complete surveys out of refreshed, I don't know, a survey out to us all, it would probably be the same document, because they've got that designed. We could ask, and because like Kate said, there might be a different response than what she gave a couple months ago. So do we want to do that and then still stay with the 15th meeting opportunity?
I think it's kind of important to have the meeting before the new board members,
Yeah.
because it gives them a perspective of what to be able to ask, what they can ask, what they can't ask, what's their responsibility as a board member.
Mm-hmm.
Would be a good way for them to
Mm-hmm.
do it, so.
I also think why not get more, we're paying a set amount. You know, we have prospective board, or, you know, incoming board members and exiting board members, but that knowledge is gonna go with the person regardless, you know, and they can use it down the road for whatever other team they might be a part of, or if they run for board in, you know, 2 years, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so do we go ahead and to stay with the June 15th and get these surveys? We could make that survey request to them tonight or first thing in the morning to send out. What we just need to do, and like Jolene you asked me earlier today, and you've been around long enough place where you got to sign off on that technology use to get your email.
Yes.
Okay, and we'd have to do the same thing for the other persons to get them set up with a school district email, so they have that opportunity to start to receive it that way.
What were so we talked about June 15th. What was the other date that week that we talked about?
The 16th.
What do you mean for
We
the
tossed
second?
around 2 dates.
We offered, yeah, I'm just gonna look at my calendar to remind myself. We gave him 2 dates, the 15th and 16th, and his response was, 15th looks great.
Does that mean the 16th doesn't look great?
Well, he didn't say it didn't look great.
Yeah.
It was,
It doesn't matter, though, right? 'Cause you're gone the 16th.
mhm.
Yeah, I think we talked about the later in June that we wait, the harder it gets, right? So if we
Mhm.
look in the week of the 20th and the week of the 27th, it just gets busier, and then we're into July.
Right, right. I just see a note.
Did the 16th work for you, Kate? Okay.
Stay the 15th.
I just looking at something. 4 o'clock start that day?
I thought it was something like that.
It's a 4 o'clock start. 4 to 8.
Can we have it, like, a little bit open if Kate's available to be there for some of the time, and if it just doesn't
Yeah.
work for her? That's fine,
Actually, I
you
think
know,
he kind of said to me at one time, if my memory serves, he's had that before, where persons could only be for a portion of the time because of, you know, whatever their own personal needs were, you know, so.
I'm in favor of both and. Let's get something going. It's unfortunate we can't all be there. It is what it is. We have lives as well, you know. But I think if we can try to get something again, maybe that day or soon, we could set something up again for later on and put it out there far enough that maybe we can all just sort of
Book it.
make it happen, yeah.
Yeah. The trouble with trying to get 7+ people on the same calendar, right? Yeah,
You gotta pick a day.
yeah. What'd you say?
I say you just gotta pick a day.
Well, we talked about that, I'm sorry. 4 o'clock, because, you know, this person's coming in and, you know, if it was gonna be an 8-hour thing, he was gonna be staying the night, but my last discussion was, he's coming in for the day, and he'll be leaving, because 8 o'clock gives him enough time to get back to his job, too. So, all right, I will ask for this. We'll need to work at getting the email opportunities for the other 2 candidates, so that they could be included on the survey, opportunity to be able to respond. So that they could,
Can we do that?
Well, you want that for the opportunity to send them information on this, but you're still not going to be releasing board packets and
Right.
things until they're sworn in, correct?
Right.
they wouldn't have a board packet yet.
Could
But
their
they,
survey be sent to a personal email if they were willing to provide that?
Well, in thinking about that, if they don't get sworn in until July 6th, they can't attend June 15th.
They can still attend the
They
meeting.
can.
We were given that information.
given that information, right,
From
yeah.
this one.
Okay.
If they're elected in,
But
they
ma-
they
but
can
maybe not
attend.
take the survey, maybe not.
We could have them take the survey, because they would need to come in, sign the approval, the use sheet, like we all do for the computer, you know, access. And at least then they've got, just like yourself, gonna have your own district email. You know, having the district email, they just wouldn't receive any other information until they're sworn in. But this gets them into the common email thread opportunity from the source to be able to send it all to us. Make sense?
Possible.
Possible?
I'm asking Mr. Gorey.
Possible.
Possible.
Could do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're, executive session for some personnel?
Yep.
Okay, so asking for a motion to close and head to executive session for some personnel issues. Mrs. Allen, motion, a second. Mr. Curtis? Okay, thank you. Turn your mics off.